Assalamu alaikum students. Today our topic is related to kinematics. What is kinematics? Kinematics is actually the branch of mechanics. First, the mechanics is that very branch in which we study mechanics is branch of physics in which we study the motion of objects, motion and equilibrium of objects. Equilibrium of objects. That is mechanics. So in this very mechanics, it is that very branch of physics in which we study the motion and equilibrium of the objects. Now that very mechanics is divided then into three branches. One is called as statics. That is the branch of mechanics which deals with the objects at rest or bodies at rest. And then we have the second one which is called as the kinematics. By rest you have to observe that the body is not always at the rest. There can be the force acting on the body, but the net force acting on the body is zero. If we are having, as I have shown, four force acting, this force is going to cancel this force is going to cancel this. So there is application of force on the body, but the body is still in equilibrium. That is, the body is at rest. Kinematics is a branch of physics which we have to actually mechanics, in which we study the motion of objects. Motion of objects, but without the study of cause of motion. So we know there is velocity, there is speed, acceleration, momentum, but we don't have to what? We don't have to go behind the cause. That cause is always the force, but we don't have to read about the force. So kinematics is that very branch of physics where we read about the velocity, whether the body is having velocity more or less, whether the body is having acceleration more or less, whether the body is having momentum more or less, so on and so forth. But we don't have to go behind the cause. What is the cause? We do know that the cause is what? The cause is the force, but we don't have read about the cause. Why we are going to read about the cause? That is called as the dynamics. So dynamics is a branch of mechanics in which we study both motion and cause. We study both motion and cause. In order to study the things related to the mechanics, we should have first knowledge of frame of reference. What is frame of reference? In order to describe the motion of an object, we require knowledge of its position, its velocity, its acceleration, how the position, velocity, and acceleration of an object are different for different observers. For example, if we are having somewhere a bus, so we are having a bus and we are having the people inside the bus, and for those very people, for those very passengers, with respect to one another they are at rest, with respect to one another they are not changing the positions, and among those very persons one is the observer. But if we are having a person which is outside the bus, that's also the observer. For the person which is outside the bus, he is saying the bus is going to go accelerating, it is moving with some acceleration. But for the passengers within the bus, if that very bus moves with a constant velocity, its velocity doesn't change, they will say that it doesn't have any kind of velocity. So in order to describe the motion, acceleration, the velocity, we are in requirement of the bus. if we take some observer which is outside the bus, outside the moving bus, he will see the bus is in the motion. But with respect to there is change in the surroundings of the bus. But once we will take a person within the bus, and that very passenger which is within the bus, which is an observer, he will say that there is no change in the surroundings. So describe the position, the velocity, the acceleration, we are in requirement of a fixed point. That very fixed point, frame of reference is a fixed point or place. It is a fixed point or place with respect to which the position, velocity, acceleration of an object is measured. That is called as what? That is called as frame of reference. So we read about the kinematics. Kinematics is simply the branch of physics in which we study the motion and equilibrium of objects. As it is divided into three branches: statics, that means the objects, and rest. By rest, we have to understand there can be application of forces, but the forces are in a balanced manner. Kinematics is the branch of physics branch of mechanics in which we study the motion of objects, but we don't study the cause of motion. And dynamics is the branch of physics in which we study both motion and cause, that we are going to read in force and laws of motion. Then the important theorem in order to understand kinematics, that is the frame of reference. In order to describe the motion of an object, we require the knowledge of position, its velocity, its acceleration. But the position and velocity of acceleration object are different for different observers. For example, if we are having an object at different distances from different persons, in this case, positions of objects are different for different observers. For example, if a boy is in the corner, if this is a room here, as I told you, if this is a room here, here is observer, and here is observer, and we are having a boy here. For him, it is having this very much distance. For this very person, it is having this very much distance. For this very person, it is having this very much distance. So for different observers, they will see differently. So in order to know the position, the velocity, the acceleration, we need a fixed point or a place with respect to which we are going to define the position, acceleration, or what it means the velocity of a body. And that point is called as what? Frame of reference. I'll be with another lecture. Allah Hafiz.